I became hooked from day one. I was like, wow, my whole life, the martial art I'd been searching for, even fantasizing about when I would wrestle and then watch pro wrestling moves and be like, oh, I found the real deal. And for a long time, to try to get people to do the jiu-jitsu was like pulling teeth. They just didn't want to do it. It didn't look, there was no flash. Unless you experienced it, it looked stupid. And throwing another man in between your legs looked really dumb. And it was just one of those things that like I would beg people to come over and they'd go, nah, that's stupid. Or isn't it just like bad with judo, with wrestling? And I'd be like, well, kinda, but it's different. You gotta try. So anyways, UFC 1 happened, and that was the first big explosion of it, and then Jiu-Jitsu caught fire. And I've got some really good stories back in the garage days and the challenge days, and the history of what we do right now is basically Japanese origin, Brazilian modified, American and Russian influenced grappling. It's not like Helio, Carlson, and George suddenly made up this whole jiu-jitsu game. The people who made this up often were blue and purple belts, innovating, coming up with a new thing. I remember, I've stolen things off of blue belts. Be like, what was that you did? How'd you do that? And then I teach it, and it's mine, right? And if you have a huge name, it's yours. I mean, that's kind of how branding works in life. And it's how art works. But Banksy, he didn't start with the rap. It was a guy, he stole it from this other artist in Paris. And if you understand anything about art and art wars, art is stealing other people's ideas and images all over, if you're thinking in that mind. Or it's about sharing, right? And you guys are in an environment in which sharing is fostered. I came up in an environment in which secrecy was gold. And I didn't really like that part. And you weren't allowed to train with guys from other schools or other academies. And if you did, it was on the down low and it was sneaky shit in the garage. And there's still some of that happening. The new and the old are always at war in any art, be it music, drawing, martial arts, whatever it is. And I encourage you guys to do what you're doing, because if there's one thing that I believe wholeheartedly is environment is stronger than will. And the illusion in our heads is that our will trumps environment. And that is exactly not true. If you are around a bunch of positive athletes, you become a positive athlete. If you are around a bunch of unhealthy shitbags, you become an unhealthy shitbag. In spite of your will. In spite of your will. Your will is what tricks you into thinking you'll be different. Once you're aware of that, your will is what gives you the chance to change environments. And then your life follows with change afterwards. And when I instruct and I grapple, I remember this environment of this mat, this man-made foam mat, which was a post-World War II invention, which was why there wasn't a lot of ground grappling pre-World War II. It was mostly throws because it hurt to fucking roll. And your elbows and knees and all that stuff. The environment we have is why wrestlers, they don't have a break point, because you don't have to on this mat, right? So that changes with the game. Man-made rules change with the game. And in the early days, when I was a blue belt and a purple, when IBJJF was being stolen from this other organization, that's a whole other story. I remember the older black belts constantly arguing about the rules. And there was a lot of schools of thought. Some of them, would you guys mind me talking? Because,
do it.
But Christian said talk, you guys are all grappled out. But after I talk, you guys got to roll with me, right?
Okay.
So it was like there was a lot of guys who thought a pulling guard ought to be -1. And there was guys who said absolutely not, it kills the guard, it kills jiu-jitsu, then we just become judo. And then when the advantages thing came way later on, I was one of the ones like, oh, fuck no. Now you are rewarding intent, not action, which is something that I'm firmly against. And the old school's firmly like, no, we do not reward intent. We reward action or result. This is a result-oriented thing, not I almost arm locked him. That doesn't mean shit. I almost swept him. That means fucking nothing, right? But that game then becomes the environment in which entire jiu-jitsu sub-games are created in order to score an advantage. And the old school says that that is so far from our original closed guard 18 move with jiu-jitsu. When I began, there really was 18 fundamental moves, that was it. And if you mastered them, you did very well. I remember when there was a war between the newer school guys with open guard, and the old school saying, no, a closed guard is where it's at. Because in the street, this open guard's stupid, you get punched in the nuts, all that stuff. And in some ways, it was a kind of dumb. Come out here, sit. Just lie on your back. So, if we break it down, just simple ways. These are the golden rules of all grappling arts, be it judo, sambo, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu, which are the major grappling arts. Judo is the art of the upper body, hips up, a cloth grip game. Greco is the art of the no cloth upper body game. Both very adaptable in the street. That their area of expertise is that. Wrestling is the art of being the guy on top, no matter what. Jiu-jitsu is the broadest range of all of these things. It's the freest. And as a golden rules, my golden rules are: number 1, be the guy on top. Number 2 is win on top, stay on top. Number 3 is win on bottom, have a guard, you shall not pass. Number 4 is never forget rule number 1, easily forgotten due to the seductive and rewarding nature of guard. That's the paradox. This is an art where we can choose bottom, which is neutral, and gain an advantage through our bitchin' defensive whipping, swirling, sneaky sweeping triangles, right? That's what hooks us in this. And if you're small and light, what got me hooked, boxing, wrestling are very weight class oriented. Weight class to the fucking half of an ounce. You step on that scale and fuck, I'm an ounce lighter than that guy, you're gonna feel it. In their hips, in their punch, you're gonna feel it. But jiu-jitsu, it was the ultimate equalizer of that because of the guard. And the Brazilian gift to Japanese jiu-jitsu. And the sport form was but to be called judo. And mats were hard. Grappling wasn't real common, but they allowed it. Then judo became an international sport as a result of post-war Japanese reconstruction. Brazil, which had a lot of Japanese jiu-jitsu experts, Maeda being one of them, did not like the sportization of jiu-jitsu. He wanted it to remain a pure warrior art. And he was a guy who fought much like real pro wrestling before it became totally fake. And Vale Tudo, which means free, you fight free with no rules, right? With limited amounts of rules. If you're bored, say something and we'll roll, because I don't want to get you guys involved. So, the golden rules of grappling, the first things I always teach, and I'm not supposed to teach very much because you guys are jitsed out, but I just want to is the value and the hierarchy of spots, right? And any time where I'm standing and he's down is good, even if I'm in his guard. So minus the whole sporting aspect, I'm down an advantage, I got to score, or the referee is his coach's friend, and I'm going to lose if I don't score, whatever. That's all in the sport. But in reality, right here, I have no rush but to pass. In the art I do, because I want to pass. I want to play the game. But in the reality of the street, I'm winning. I'm on top. I don't want to risk being on bottom. Guard, closed guard, used to be what was called neutral. If I'm up here, I can hit him, he can't hit me. So a postured guard is my slight advantage. Neutral, my slight advantage. He breaks me down, his slight advantage. So I want to get postured, my slight advantage. He breaks me down, break me down, his slight advantage. And the open guard was thought not good until our sport, which I love open guard. That's fucking almost all I do. But it was not good. If I pass his guard and I get to cross sides, it's my advantage, but I can't hit him real well here. So if I end up mounting, now I can strike. So mount is good. And the back was the best because it's the one spot where he can't see my strikes, and even if I'm on bottom, I'm in the good spot. So if you were light like me, you're like, this is fucking awesome. I can be on bottom, take his back, and win the fight. And beat that big fucker because I have heavyweight envy. Right? So, guard evolved. And what happened was, like any art or any system, the original guys were growing old, like I am now, fuck, and losing control of their armies with their black belts, who would start to do new things. And there was in the 90s what I will call the Rio explosion, like the Cambrian explosion in evolution, where all of a sudden, like I'd pull in the Machado school and there'd be 5 Brazilians on the mat in sleeping bags. And you'd wake them up and they'd show you all the cool new moves out. Before it was called spider guard. You know, you grab the sleeve like this. Use your foot, push, hit the foot, control your hip. And all that stuff, and it was like, that shit was like totally new. And suddenly the old school fought the new school and the sport was blowing up. And then when the guys would come up and he'd have the bag and he'd dump it and it'd be 5 Krugen's geese and it'd be a shark fight. It's like, that's a fucking A1, I don't care, I'll never wash it. and now it's like, fucking geese are ubiquitous, and it's like, it kind of bums me out because I still have this thing I gotta cling on geese. Like wetsuits. When I was growing up, fuck, wetsuits were like fucking gold. That water is cold. And if you can find one that even remotely fit you, you were like, fuck, this is awesome. The beaver tail wagon. Now you can buy them at fucking Target. But still, if I see one in the trash, I'm like, fuck, there's a wetsuit, you know? A gi, it's like, you can't throw that thing away. My wife's always throwing them away. And I'm like, you can't throw gi pants away. The pants were so rare. You'd have 5 judo tops and no pants, because the pants were always fucking torn. But okay, so, where was I? So, but jiu-jitsu began evolving. So guys would start to open. People like me who had scrawny, short legs, me trying to hold a closed guard became almost fucking pointless. Open my guard. It's working. So why not open it ahead of time, right? And that whole game started. And then if he stayed down, I'm going to come on top. So he's going to stand. And then began the standing games, right? And then came the Russians. And they started foot-locking the shit out of people. So we started to get our feet inside. Because it sucked when all the black belts were on crutches. Because some fucking Russian... I took his back. I still shoved in his neck, but he fucking foot-locked me so hard, broken my bones. So then came the whole open guard game. And that was really what blew jiu-jitsu the fuck up. Because now I got this open guard. And I'm doing all this shit, and I'm going upside down and putting all these cool sweeps in. And he has to have a passing game. You know, it's like, oh shit, this fucking open guard, and all these legs keep looping back in and swimming around. And then the stoners came. You know, man, fuck. I don't really want to have to move my hips so much, dude. It's too much work. I'd just rather do this yoga shit. Weird. Whoa, it's like rubber, dude. And then he came rubber guard, right? This whole fucking thing. And my hips don't move. You just got to get more stoned, man. You'll move. So, and then came Jean-Jacques inside hook game to avoid the foot locks again. And the arm drag started. And Marcelo came along, and boom! All of a sudden, the blend of American wrestling, well, not American, let's call it Greek wrestling. So that's what really, Americans love to own everything, right? We started it, we're American, we didn't start shit, we're only fucking 210 years old, or however old we are, right? We're a European colony. What language are we speaking? English. All right, so the arm drag game came, and that was an awesome game. And then there was a long period where most instructors said because jiu-jitsu and MMA were still kind of intertwined. And most jiu-jitsu schools were the feeder schools into MMA. And then there were wrestling camps that were feed into MMA. Now it's, you guys all do jiu-jitsu. And the MMA jocks are over there pounding on tires with hammers and punching bags and mounting heavy bags and doing this, and they're doing their thing now, and we've kind of branched off in the more finesse art thing, which is funner, and it's also when you're 50 and you don't want to get punched in the fucking head anymore. This is the easier, softer way. This is ultimately the intelligent art. The art of jiu-jitsu is the art of to control and submit my opponent, utilizing the least amount of athletic attributes and the maximum amount of leverage with technique, with cunningness, and guile. That's the art. The sport is, how do I control and submit my opponent within the man-made rules of the game using the maximum amount of leverage, knowledge, and everything, and my athleticism. That's the sport. And the street aspect, I say you think street, you don't even talk about it, don't even train it, because you start going down that fucking road, before you know it, we're doing groin grabs and eye gouges and fish hooks, and we can't even realistically train it, right? But when you think street, you keep honest in your game. And I've retained the old school, what I call honesty of the street, for the most part. So an example would be, when I'm here in the guard, if I don't know where his hands are with my eyes closed, it's raining knuckles. A punch, slap me. My eyes are closed. Just slap me. It's okay if you slap me. So I'm constantly worried about where his hands are. And that helps my grappling game. Overall, it'll help it in every way. I've noticed a lot of the sport guys, even sport guys who kick my fucking ass, they have no idea where my hands are. And because the jiu-jitsu's now gotten so far away from the original root in that way, which is good and bad, because you wouldn't have spider guard if we didn't have the sport, which is wonderful. I love spider guard. Well, until I got arthritic. So, your guard. Lock it. Lock it or lose it. So, where are my hands?
On my chest.
Where are yours?
On your.
That's right. Grapple a little bit. Just move around a little bit. So my job is to seal your hands at all times, but punch me at any time, slap me. Where you're always out of range of a strike, and I'm always in range of a strike, right? Slap me, I'll slap you back.